I've been using the same MIDI keyboard for the past 13 years, and if I'm being honest, I probably should have upgraded a long time ago. I don't think I'm alone when I say this, but my studio is my favorite place in my entire house. Not only because it's where I get to make music, but because every piece of gear here is a representation of how far I've come in my music journey. I remember when I was around 13 or so, I pulled together all my birthday and Christmas money and I decided to buy a microphone. Now mind you, I didn't have cables or an interface or even a DAW, but all I knew was that this is what I wanted to do. Fast forward to college and now I have a job, so I decided to invest in my first 3 pieces of real gear. Those being the Yamaha HS80Ms, the very first versions that came out, I still have them till this day, a Machine or a Machina MK1, which has long died, but if you've been here since the beginning, then you saw that beat pad plenty in my videos, and of course, my AKAI MPK 61 MIDI keyboard. Over the years, the studio has grown, of course, and I've gotten new things, but I've always struggled to get rid of this keyboard, and I don't know, maybe it's because it keeps me tethered to where this all started. Emotional reasons aside though, the other reason I've put off on upgrading is that somewhere along the way, I made a rule for myself that I would only upgrade gear if that new piece genuinely improved my workflow. Now listen, I'm not unlike any other producer. I also love gear. I also browse Sweetwater and I add stuff to my cart. I don't check out, but they're there, and so I get it. New gear is exciting. But here's the thing, gear for the sake of having gear, I have found, just really serves to stroke the ego. What is the point of having everything if you don't put it to use, if you don't actually make music? Plus, I would argue that sometimes having too much can actually work against you by putting you into this state called analysis paralysis, where the amount of choices actually paralyzes you from doing the thing. Now, that's not to say that you should not get things. A painter needs their brushes and tools, but I do think there is a balance. In any case, after 13 years, it was finally time for an upgrade. So what did I get? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Arturia AstroLab 61. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a review. I'm not trying to convince you to buy anything. However, I do want to show you why I picked this keyboard and ultimately how it improves my workflow. I know this keyboard got some hate when it first came out because it's not really a synth, even though it has a synth price. And so if you are looking for something with a lot of knobs that you can tweak to your heart's content, then this is not that. Go get a Polybrew or something. What this really is the Arturia V Collection in a keyboard format. And honestly, that's the main reason that I fell in love with it. I am in the process of slowly purging things here in the studio in an effort to be more intentional with my tools and my craft. The V Collection has always been a fantastic instrument suite, and the fact that it forces me to go deeper with a specific collection of tools in a tactile, hands-on approach, to me sounded incredible. The other reason that I went for this keyboard is that it is actually a stage piano before anything else, and so that means that this also becomes an instrument that I can play and practice on anytime without having to turn on the entire rig. As someone who grew up playing instruments, this was super important to me because I know I am way more likely to sit down and play if I can just turn on one thing and go. Now, again, this is not a full feature rundown, but let me show you a few things that I really love about this keyboard. Okay, so the very first thing is that if you take a look, it has these category buttons here. Now, the V Collection is an expansive suite of tools, and so these make it really, really easy to get to exactly what I want to go to. So for example, if I wanted to browse the electric pianos, I can just click this button here. If I wanted to go to a bass, and when you do land on a category where you want to explore further, you can use this big rotary knob to shift through the presets or the arrow keys to do the same thing. Now, if you don't want to use the screen here for whatever reason, then it also comes with this app that you can then sync to it and then be able to see all of the presets from one single location. And so, for example, if I wanted to say maybe go to a lead, I can click that section and then select my preset and be able to play that way. Now, if you ever do come across a preset that you like and you want to save, like for example, this jazz organ, I can just hold down the rotary knob, hit the little heart, and now it gets saved in my favorite section, which makes recall of my favorite sounds really, really easy. Over to the right here, we have a couple of different knobs that affect things like the brightness, the timbre, time movement, and a bunch of different effects like reverb and delay, which I can then control directly from the board. And because they are touch sensitive, the moment you click one of these, it'll tell you what that is set on the little screen here. So So let's do less reverb on that, maybe some delay. And of course, I can always edit these to whatever I want it to be. The keyboard also has a native chord and scale feature, which is really cool. I don't really see myself using the chord feature too much, but I can see myself using the scale because what you can do is essentially press and hold this button. You can go to the top, turn on the scale mode, set your root note, set your scale type. So let's do maybe minor. And then what happens is that all the white keys now become that scale that you chose. In all honesty, I am not a music theory virtuoso. There are times where I want to maybe produce in a different scale, a different key, but I don't know it by heart yet. And so this allows me to lock them all into the white keys and then still play progressions from that different scale as if I was playing in the key of C major. So here, for example, we're locked into C minor, but I can still use all the white keys to maybe come up with a chord progression. The coolest thing about this though is that it also has a native integration with AstroLab. So once you connect it to your computer via a USB-C cable, you can then click the little button here on the interface of AstroLab. And now any change that I make here on the board also gets reflected on the software. This keyboard has a lot more that it can do, but as I said before, the thing that drew me to it was that it forces me to focus and use what I have. Sure, it still has a bunch of options to get lost in, but instead of wasting time deciding what virtual instrument I'm going to use, that initial decision has already been made for me. From there, the board helps me get to where I want to go quickly, helps me edit that preset how I want, which ultimately means that I get to focus on actually making more music. Speaking of making more music and being productive, if you are a Studio One user like myself, then it's also very important to work quickly in the DAW. And for that, I've built a free macro toolbar called the Productivity Toolbar. It's free and I'll link it for you down below in the description in case you're interested. Anyway, I'm really excited to create with this board and you'll be seeing it more in upcoming videos. And if I had to leave you with something today, it would be to upgrade whenever your workflow demands it or when something significantly helps you make more music, not just when something new drops. Thank you for tuning in and I'll see you on the next one.